Big story this morning on the front page of The Sun. Harry Cole, with another exclusive, former Tory chairman Sir Jake Berry became the biggest name yet to defect to reform last night. A big boost for Nigel Farage's party. And, of course, he's the former Tory party chairman. We'll be speaking to him a little bit later on in the show. Harry Cole is here with us right now, editor-at-large at The Sun. Harry, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike. How are you doing?
Yeah, very well indeed. Big news last night. Absolutely a stonking result for Nigel Farage and reform. What can you tell us about how it all happened?
Well, I think this is what I mean. I don't think Sir Jake Berry is the only Tory politician having a look at what's happening, look at those polls, look at the way the world is going. Lost his seat last year, no thanks to, in a large part thanks to reform splitting the splitting the vote in his what was a Labour, used to be a Labour margin. Labour took it back after 14 years. There are a lot of Tory MPs and former MPs who would very much like to join reform, but I think the interesting thing is, well, they're almost queuing up to jump over, and Nigel Farage is going to be able to be quite selective, I think, in who he takes to the calls. But I think the a former Tory party chairman is kind of unheard of. This is a guy that literally ran the Tory party, albeit it was only for a short amount of time. But he was a long-standing cabinet minister. He was, a very close ally of Boris Johnson, and he's. I don't like the word mainstream as such, but he was a sort of big fixture in the Conservative Party.
Yeah.
There's some fringe person, so I think it's a really interesting sort of bellwether of where the right in this country is. That actually, someone who is served right at the heart of the Tory Party is willing to make that jump. And I think what would be really interesting to see is whether you start to see more sort of moderate, mainline, middle of the road Conservatives also realising where they're at. For reform, I think it's interesting. That I don't think they want to become, Tory 2.0, and I don't think they should do that either. In terms of they want to be appealing to people all over the country, not least in the Labour's former northern industrial heartlands, where Boris Johnson may have won them, Brexit may have won them over, but they went back to Labour in 2024. So he does need to have a sort of broader appeal than just being a sort of wash up shop for former Tories, but I suspect this one was just too irresistible, given Sir Jake Berry was the Tory party chairman.
Yeah, exactly right. And given his closeness to Boris Johnson, I don't know whether he still is. I mean, is this a gateway kind of scenario? Could it be that people see Jake Berry going in and going, well, actually, I've been thinking about it, but I wasn't really sure. But since he's gone, maybe I'll go as well.
Well, but perhaps. I don't think this is. I don't think we're going to see Boris Johnson joining reform anytime soon.
I'm not sure Nigel Farage would want him, would he?
Well, the only man that's ever done a deal with Nigel Farage was Boris Johnson back in 2019 to get him to stand down. They all deny there was any deal, but we all know that thing didn't happen by mistake or by accident. So look, I think the Farage feels that Boris perhaps certainly his administration slightly welched on their end of the deal, having stood down candidates in Tory-facing seats in 2019, allowed the Tories to get that big majority to save Brexit, so to speak, and then in Farage's view and whatever else was dangled to help get that deal over the line, that the terms of that were betrayed. So I think we're somewhere over that. But I think that your original point is correct, Mike, in the fact there is a, this isn't, as I said, this isn't some fringe Tory. This isn't someone who's been, this isn't some disgraced former politician who's now trying to reinvent themselves in a new party, having left their old party in, under a cloud. This is a straight up defection.
And it's more bad news for Keir Starmer as well, I suppose, because he seems to be increasingly irritable every time Nigel Farage gets up to say anything. The whole House of Commons yesterday for Prime Minister's questions was pretty badly behaved, weren't they, when Nigel Farage was speaking?
I just don't know who these Labour MPs and Tory MPs and Liberals and Independent. Who do they think they're helping by doing this?
Yeah.
One of those most famous images I always remember of Nigel Farage is when he used to stand up in the European Parliament and say, one day, if you keep behaving like this, Britain's going to leave the EU. And they all laughed and jeered, and and now you go back and look at those videos now, and you think, they're laughing on the other side of their faces now, aren't they?
Well, as he famously said at the time, didn't he? He said, "You're not laughing now." I mean, that became a kind of a meme, didn't it?
I just think, I just don't understand. I think if you are a regular puncher, I know, you see that footage, You're not as politically engaged as, so perhaps, me and you and others are. But you look at that, you just think, well, why are they doing that?
Yeah.
What are they so afraid of? They don't want him to get his voice out there. Have a look at the polls. And if I have to say, I think the Speaker probably should start to intervene on that.
I think he needs to do more. He really does. He clearly doesn't want to.
Hear him. We hear a lot of him. We hear a lot of him. We know when he wants to tell backbenchers to be quiet or ministers and the like. But he allows this sort of barracking and cacophony of noise. Only in very selective terms.
Absolutely. I'm hearing that there's a big meeting on Friday, an away day. It always puts the fear of death into anyone in corporate Britain, doesn't it? When you go, we're having an away day with the company. You go, oh God! But there's going to be an away day apparently somewhere in London. There's a secret location. Keir Starmer and his cabinet talk of a possible reshuffle. What are you hearing?
I was under the impression, and have been steered very heavily against the idea that it was going to be a reshuffle this side of the summer. I think that will more likely come in the autumn, not least because the position of the Chancellor isn't exactly crystal clear right now. I think Keir Starmer does these sort of away days from time to time. One of them he managed to get all 300 yards away from and had it in the Foreign Office, so not exactly an away day, but there was always
not very far away day.
Exactly. There's always some amusing tittle tattle out of these things about who spectacularly misjudges the dress code, and he loves dressing down as the star. So I suspect we'll see some his casualties. Look, I think these things happen a lot. Gordon Brown used to take his cabinet on these long sort of away like show roads. Get on the train. They're going to have a cabinet in Newcastle or Glasgow and stuff. Right. I think it's clear that from those interviews that Keir Starmer's been giving in the last few weeks that when he said he was distracted by being on summit, so he missed a bit of benefit. He was distracted by this and distracted by that. I do wonder whether he's in listening mode now. He got an absolute tonking on the nose last week by that big massive rebellion. So I wonder whether there's some steam to be some steam vented around the cabinet table.
Well, there's another massive rebellion on the way, because not only has he got the special educational needs children being represented by the backbenchers, but there's another letter's gone in now from 100 Labour MPs, piece on the front of the Guardian, talking about needing to reduce the cost of living for people.
Yeah, these groups and factions. It's taken them a little while. They got off to a slow start the 2024 intake, but now they've got a taste of setting the agenda. Now they've wrestled back the political control really from Downing Street, and you'll start to see this more and more. You'll start to see them flex their muscles. There'll be this group for that and this pressure group for that, and they start to split into factions, and that's never fun for the government, because you're always trying to please one faction. The ones you've got to look out for though are these mythical groups and letters and factions that remarkably pop up and are incredibly supportive of a particular strand of government policy. And so you wonder, you've got to know which ones are the actual rebels and which ones are the actual toadies. Yes. So isn't it remarkable there's a backbench group that says, we really want some growth, and every time there's anything that looks vaguely like growth, they're going, wow, look at all this growth that Rachel Reeves has got. Yeah. Remarkable.
It was nice to see her looking happy yesterday, at least. I mean, at least there were no more tears for Rachel.
I know. I mean, yeah. I think the poor woman's going to have that one round her ankle for a while. I don't think that's going to become one of the more defining images of the political era. I would say.
It's definitely going to be one for the end of the year roundup, isn't it? That's for sure. Great to see you, Harry Cole. Thank you very much indeed. Big piece on the front this morning. The exclusive story that basically Jake Berry, the former Tory chairman, Sir Jake Berry, no less, has joined Reform.